Fireside. MC Fireside.
And are we live? We'll find out if we're live. I think we're live. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of MC Fireside Chats. I am Bizarro Brian. That's right. I've got the beard and everything. I don't know if anybody else remembers that, the cartoons when you were a kid. You go to Bizarro World and Superman would show up and he had a goatee. Anyway, Scott's not laughing at that joke, and that's all he's here for.
I was thinking about South Park. You should have used the South Park reference.
Yes, you're right. I should have gone that one, the Indian Burial Ground episode from season 2, I think. Right. Anyway, I am Greg Emmert, founder and principal at Vireo, a consulting firm that helps outdoor hospitality. I am your co-host this week, along with the illustrious Scott Barr, who's next to me. I don't know if on the screen it shows us over here or over here. This is a very Brady Bunch thing we have going on right now. Scott, nice to see you again. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's great being a part of it.
And then we have David, Steph, and Mackenzie as well. And then there's this odd person showing us the ground that he's walking on. So we'll maybe get in with him later. But David, Steph, Mackenzie, all really excited to see what's going on with you guys. And then there's a stalker down in the bottom right-hand corner claiming to be Brian Searle. Very backlit, very Nosferatu looking. Sir, you might could use some pigment or some better lighting. I'm not sure which one, maybe both. But it's good to see
you. Guys actually hear me?
Glad you could join us. Yes, I can hear you anyway.
All right, we'll see if this internet works. I'm in a tiny town called Rostock in Croatia, so.
Fair
Go
enough.
ahead, lead the show, man. It's all yours.
I was doing that, and then you came on board. You just slowed me down.
You said hi to me, man. I wanted to
anyway,
be nice to acknowledge you.
So very nice to have our 3 guests this week. Everybody kind of in the glamping space, which I'm really excited to talk about. Why don't we start with the person that's at the top of my host notes? But we'll start with Steph McDonald. And Steph, why don't you tell us a little bit about Quab's Cabin?
Okay, I'm Steph, as you've just said, and together with my husband Paul, we built Quab's Cabin by hand on our sheep farm in the hills of Mid Wales in the UK. We wanted to create a place where people could slow down and reconnect, and a bit of magic in the quiet countryside. So the cabin sits in the meadows and rolling hills, lots and lots of walks nearby. It's designed for 2, cozy, romantic, dog-friendly, all the home comforts, and really trying hard to be sustainable, eco-friendly. And we wanted it to be warm and simple and inviting, and that was our vibe, really. So that's just about where we've come from. We only opened in January, so we're new to this. We're doing a lot of firsts this year, but so far so good.
Very nice. And where are you from? Where's Quab's Cabin located?
It's in Wales, in the UK.
Awesome. Oh, great to get some international
just over the English border.
Okay, just across the pond, right?
Yeah.
I have international perspective too.
No, you're just an American expat who happens to be traveling right now. That's not the same thing. We'll talk about that later. Quit trying to take the attention away from the guest. Then let's move to Mackenzie. Mackenzie, tell us a little bit about Wild Ride. I love this, by the way. I'm reading your notes, and it sounds lovely.
Yeah, so Wild Ride is a Mustang sanctuary for formerly wild horses, and we're located in Sterling, Connecticut. And so we are on 150 acres, and we have all these beautiful horses running around, and we are a nonprofit, so we have a mission to educate the public and share their stories with the public, and also fundraise to support them because, of course, horses are very expensive. So we thought, what better way to do that than to invite the public in and offer glamping and let them glamp with the wild horses. So we have our glamping domes, and then there's a window view of all of the horses out both the front and back windows. And so you get to yourself quite literally in a herd of wild Mustangs as you have a glamping experience with us.
That's
Wow.
so cool, Mackenzie. My sister does the something very similar. She has a Mustang rescue in Michigan.
Oh, cool.
And also has a couple of glamping units herself too. So, nice to meet you. And yeah, I'm sure you guys could share notes. So,
Yeah, talk about your individually curated experiences. That's that one's really unique. That's a new one to me. So looking forward to digging into that a little bit more. And last, of course, not least, Dave. I didn't mean to put you last, Dave, but I figured it was only right to go ladies first. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what it's like to be Chief Visionary Officer at, I'm sorry, I lost your notes, the Canadian Sleeping Barrels. And for the record, these are barrels that people sleep in. The barrels themselves are not sleeping. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, good.
No, we have a theory that guests don't take pictures of mattresses. They take pictures of experiences. So we make barrel saunas, and we were told, right in around COVID, just before COVID, there was a staff accommodation shortage in Tofino and Ucluelet on Vancouver Island. So we took our biggest barrel sauna, where the back wall is a large acrylic bubble, and we put a king-size bed platform in there and a fridge unit with a stove, and we sold about 30 of them. So we started Canadian Sleeping Barrels, where the barrel is 7 foot in diameter, 14 feet long, plus a 2 foot acrylic bubble. So your pillow and your head are right out into the bubble.
Oh, that is certainly a unique way to stay. And do you simply sell the barrels, or do you have a glamping operation as well that uses the barrels as accommodation?
We just sell the barrels to campgrounds, resorts, parks. We just opened up Cumberland Lake Provincial Park on Vancouver Island last year.
Awesome. So we've got a supplier, we've got 2 operators, we've got a data guru, and then I guess last and certainly not least, Mr. Searle, would you like to introduce yourself in case the people here don't know who you are or what you do?
I mean, I guess I can if you feel like I should. Brian Searle with Insider Perks, your regular host when I have good internet and maybe am at home in Canada, where I am from. Shout out to my fellow Canadian Sleeping Barrel. Can I call you my brother? Is that like a thing? I mean, I'm technically an American, like Greg is saying, but I'm a permanent resident now, so I feel like I can say that. But yeah, live, happy to be here, Greg, or wherever you guys want to take the show. When you decide that it's relevant, then I'm happy to talk about my experiences here at kind of the Croatian Camping Congress and some of the things we've seen over here. But wherever you want to fit that in the show, go for it.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. Why don't you give us a little rundown of what you've seen, and maybe some of it's going to tie back to what we're going to talk about with our glamping guests today.
I mean, I think it's really interesting. Like it's obviously dark here, as you can see. I'm at an Airbnb sitting out on a porch, which I should show you the view before we leave at some point. It's really nice. It's dark, but it's beautiful. And so we just got done with the Croatian Camping Conference. It started, I guess it started on Monday night with the drinking and the socializing, and but it was located in a town called, and I'm going to pronounce this right, Šibenik. It's a little, symbols above the words that I'm still trying to master here in Croatia. But it's a beautiful town on the coast of southern Dalmatian coast here in Croatia. And so the owners gather here probably once a year, just like you would normally at a Canadian conference or a United States conference. And there's probably about 350 people there, I would say, when you count the exhibitors and stuff like that, which is a pretty impressive showing, I think, more than I expected for just a single country. It's really just Croatia and Slovenia that come to the show. And we sat in on a couple things. The Ministry of Tourism, some of the government officials there were from Croatia. And it was really interesting to hear him say that a lot of the struggles that they're having are similar struggles to what we experience over in the United States and Canadian industries, in that they're trying to figure out things like mobile homes. What does it mean if they're on wheels or not on wheels? When does it qualify as a building if you add a porch to it? How close can these things be to the sea, and should we move them back and to protect the environment? And so a lot of that stuff actually is really interesting to find that no matter where you go in the world, it feels like those are some of the same issues that campground and camping site owners and glamping operators face all over the world. So we listened to that. We heard a lot of good updates about different things. I think it's interesting to me that AI seems to be more on the radar over here, or at least being talked more about at the conferences. They had several panels where people brought up AI and how it had already impacted their businesses. It already lowered the click-through rate this camping season, which is over now. So that seems to be a little bit more prevalent. But overall, just the takeaway is, and Scott, I have some data that we'll try to maybe share with you. I've got some pictures and screenshots. I won't be able to share it on this meeting, but from a company called Tisa that is doing really interesting market research about the European market. And again, a lot of it was, sorry, did I break up?
A little bit. You're back.
Okay, cool. So a company called Tisa that does some really good market research. But I think the big takeaway for me there was the same thing that Scott, you and I have talked about on Outwired, and Greg on this show multiple times too on Fireside Chats, is that they are saying the same thing. The customer wants an experience. They want something that is memorable. They don't want just the accommodation anymore. And man, the amount of stuff that they've done over here in Croatia is really astounding. They have, I think I sent a picture in the Outwired channel earlier. They have RV sites with private pools on them. They have resorts with like 400, they call them mobile homes, but they're basically cabins. And they all have private pools. So there's been a ton of really high-end development over here in Croatia. From what I understand, they are some of the highest priced accommodations anywhere in Europe, or highest priced camping experiences, I guess, anywhere in Europe. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the key takeaways. Like the year was overall, from what I understand, like maybe up to 2.5%, but flat in a lot of other European countries, and that's kind of the same thing we're seeing at home.
Yep, absolutely.
Definitely is, and that's some interesting feedback. Our problems and our challenges tend to follow us no matter where we go, right? We're humans, and despite our cultural and language and differences across the board, the similarities are always there, right? So going back to what Brian said about experiences, and I love talking about this, and I think this is the perfect audience because glamping, I think, really hits that mark better than, I feel like they're further ahead of it than, say, RV parks, right? Where a lot of things feel very much the same, and that's where I came from, right? I had a 240 site RV park before I got into consulting, and boy, oh boy, we fell into the same traps, same sort of, I don't even know if you could call them experiences. You know, when it comes to RV parks, it's more like your activities for the year, right? So, and those activities, you go to 100 parks, boy, and you hit 75 of the same ones, and nobody's really driving. I shouldn't say nobody. Very few operators or systems are driving experience like glamping does. So if we could just touch on that a little bit. And Dave, you started off, you told us a little bit about the experience that essentially you're kind of curating for the people who buy your pods just through construction and design. Can you talk a little bit more about that, being the chief visionary officer? You know, you told us a little bit about what you're doing now. How do you see that bubble and that unique design impacting the operators who buy your units? And then where do you see that going for you in the future? If you can share some of your, maybe what you've got upcoming without tipping your hat too much and telling all your competitors what you've got coming up next.
No problem. It's funny you mentioned bubble because we created this right in around COVID, and our little slogan was, we're making our bubble part of your bubble.
That's great. That is great.
We had a little bit of fun with that. The next phase that we're looking at right now is murals. Picture says 1,000 words. So what we're doing is having campgrounds, because there's a story behind every piece of land.
Yeah.
What would your story be? and we're airbrushing it on the front wall of each of the barrels. So what seems to be happening is guests are coming back because they didn't get to stay in the spirit animal one or the dancing bear barrel. So each barrel has their own story, and it's all airbrushed right into the front wall.
Wow, that is one heck of a level of customization per barrel. How many artists do you have working with you? You just have one, and you work their fingers to the bone as they paint all these things, or how does
Pretty
that
much.
work? You must have a team.
Yeah, we're on Vancouver Island, so there's lots of great artists. So what we're trying to do is just promote each of the artists' talents, and there's a lot of painters and wood carvers.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's really great. And so you say you're seeing the operators are letting you know that these individually painted and themed accommodations are actually driving occupancy, right? People are coming back to stay in them. I was advised ages ago that I should do that with. I had very few cabins at my place, but I was advised that I should do that. We ended up selling before we sort of followed down that path. But I think for a lot of operators, they think the same way that I did. Well, if I create this one unique one and another unique one, and I've got 5 of them, and they're all different from one another, it might drive people to want to stay in all 5, but it might also drive people to say, well, I don't like those other 4. I'm just going to stay in this one. And I was afraid of that. I was a little nervous of that. Didn't take that plunge. But boy, I've talked to other operators, and they really echo what you just said. And so you're able to talk to the folks that are buying these things and actually see the impact that that's having. Is that correct?
What they're telling me is it's not just an ROI, it's an ROE, not just a return on investment, but a return on emotion. And you get emotional equity, not just return on investment. Yep.
And that is, boy, I know Scott he's got his hand over his mouth right now, but he could talk about that forever. You've got how many different studies that have come back saying exactly that, Scott?
Oh, pretty much all of them.
Yeah, right. That's right. That's right.
And that's measure it reinforces it. We try to hit it from different angles, make sure there's some nuance included. But yeah, it's very, very consistent.
Right on, and across most demographics and age groups too. Correct.
Yep. I think what's interesting too about the group we have here today is that is something that we've been talking about a lot. Is taking within the glamping sector, taking it from being just a unique accommodation to a unique experience, and that that's what we've seen is a little bit of that changeover. So anyway, I was really happy to see the group that we have here today.
Yeah, it's not just what they see; it's what they feel when they see it.
Yep, absolutely.
Absolutely. You could not be more suited to wear the letters CVO, Dave. You have got it down, like the language and very well spoken. I appreciate that, your insights. And now, Steph, your place also seems. It sounds like do you just have one cabin? It is just a single cabin.
Yeah, just one cabin on the farm. Yeah, we planned it for a long time, and it was always going to be something that we just did once. So we really like to offer the guests a really sort of a personal experience. They come and mostly they followed us on social media for a long time. We catalogued and showed the build from the good bits to the bad bits to the muddy bits to the frustrating bits, and we got a really good community of followers. And again, as you were saying about the experience, the emotional experience, we get such heartfelt feedback from our guests who just don't want to leave. When their stay comes to the end, they book again. And, they're telling their friends, they're posting photos. They're really sort of interacting with anything that they can do in the cabin, whether it be going in the hot tub. We're in a dark skies area, so they love to post photos of the dark skies or of the sheep at lambing time, or they might we've just installed a new sauna, so that they're doing that. So actually they're helping us by coming and enjoying it and sharing their experience and leaving lovely reviews online on Google. They are really investing their time. I mean, social media is just amazing, isn't it? You know, people like to come and book. They like to imagine themselves where they can see that they can, you know, talk about sitting in front of the campfire, toasting marshmallows, you know, reading a book in front of the log burner, sinking into the copper bath. They see people putting these things online and saying, oh, what a wonderful, relaxing time we've had. I've never been so relaxed. And more people are booking. So that investment in social media right from the very beginning, where we sort of showed them everything to do with the build and sort of got them involved by saying, oh, we're going to paint something this color or that color. What do you think? You know, and sort of like we ended up building a little online community who have cheerleaded for us. You know, they've been with us from, you know, the beginning when things got tough, when it was muddy and sideways rain. They were very much like, oh my good, you know, direct messages saying, keep going, you're doing a really great job, you know, and it really did help. And all of these people, lots of them have converted to bookings and repeat bookings, and it's just been fantastic. We've had people for their honeymoons, people have proposed in the cabin, and you know, we just keep adding a little bit more to what we can offer, and we love to offer the personal experience. So it will always only be one cabin for us, and that's sort of like we just really want to keep couples coming, couples having a relaxing and a switch off weekend, and go home, tell their friends all about it, show them the pictures, post the pictures, send the feedback. So far, so good. But as I say, it's been a year of firsts. We didn't open until January. So, yeah.
Well, that's really lovely. And that's a great lesson for people out there maybe watching the show and trying to figure out, how do I scale and how do I get bigger and how do I make, you know, not everyone can afford to operate one glamping unit. Let's be honest, right? Some folks have a lot they have to pay for. They have a different mission. They've got investors. They've got a great big land purchase that they're trying to cover with the income from this. But what you're really selling is personal connection and like luxurious exclusivity, right? You are selling exclusivity. This place, you come, it's all yours. And by all yours, we don't mean just what you're renting. The entire place is all yours. That's a great way. Talk about connection. You probably have people leaving there. I bet you're making a lot of friends with this too, because you probably have people leaving there that you get to know very well, right? Because you only have one couple at a time.
They're very, very generous, you know, with their feedback, and they just love to sit. We get a lot of people. I mean, we're in Wales in the UK. You know, the population here in mid Wales is very low. But we get lots of people from cities who have never seen dark skies like it. They are just not used to the peace and quiet. They're certainly not used to the dark. And they absolutely love to switch off. You know, we've got Wi-Fi usually, and they first thing they ask when they come is, what's the Wi-Fi password? And then at the end of their stay, they say, oh, well, we didn't really use it anyway. You know, they come prepared to need the Wi-Fi, but tend not to use it because there's so much else to do.
That's wonderful. That is really wonderful, especially the dark sky part. I think people who live in cities or even just urban areas that, you know, they might look up and see a dozen or 24 stars. They think that's kind of neat. When you go out and you see the Milky Way for the first time, or you go to a place and you notice that you can see stars all the way down to the horizon, that's really mind-bending to think back about what our ancestors saw every night and maybe even took for granted, right? And now we have to go out and find it because we've created so much artificial light. I think that's a wonderful way to connect with your guests right there, to get them to feel that sense of place and remember your cabin that way.
Yeah, they can sit. I mean, they can sit. What they love to do is to sit in the hot tub at night and just look up. And overwhelmingly, you know, guests say we've never seen anything like it. And it's, you know, it just makes us happy to hear that, to be honest.
Yeah, I'll bet it does. And I bet.
I think it's,
can
I jump in for a second? Sorry.
Yeah, of course.
I was just going to say, like, I think it's, no, it's not really. It's your show tonight. But I think it's really interesting that we should probably take this moment that, like Steph's saying, she has this one cabin It connects people to the outdoors, and I think that's we talk about this on the show a lot, right? Scott's data shows this. That I think we're using glamping as a temporary word to define something we're still not sure what it is, but it all comes together with I'm connecting with the skies and the outdoors and nature and hiking and over here in Europe it's called and I don't know if it's the same in the UK. I think they call it outdoor hospitality or in the UK, but it's open air resorts in much of Europe. I don't know if it's
I
the same
haven't
in the UK.
heard that term, but I think you're right in saying when we had the tourist board from Wales come and grade us, it was really interesting because lots in the last couple of years, UK staycations have become really, really popular. So there are places who have 10, 20 cabins and some that have more, some that have less, but there are very few that just have the one place. And the lady who carried out our assessment, she said that it was very difficult because the grading for glamping in Wales, I assume it would be in England as well, but the grading is so very broad because it hasn't been updated in quite a few years. I think they're in the process of doing that now. But up to 7 or 8 years ago, glamping was just quite a fancy tent, whereas now these experiences, and certainly the one that we offer, is a really luxury staycation. So it almost feels like it's not self-catering, it's not a hotel, but it is something more than fancy camping. And I think there needs to be some kind of category, if you like, for people to understand, because sort of glamping tends to do it down a little bit for a lot of places.
Well, Scott, your research showed that. You'll have to cite that slide you sent me with all the glamping information. Cited the fact that people were changing the definition of glamping. So I'd love for you to, if Greg allows it, because he's the host, to talk about that in maybe a second. I think you're hosting next week, Scott, so you'll have your turn. Although I did ask you to do it today before Greg answered his text message. If you ever, by the way, have an emergency, never text Greg. It takes 2.5 hours for him to get back to you. So if you're
it's a phone
danger
call.
or anything else,
it's a phone call. Texts are low on the
But it is really I think they figured it out, Steph. I think down here, in Europe, and we've heard it in multiple countries, open air resort is amazing. I don't think you could take another word and define it's not glamping, it's not camping. It could be both, but it's not either. It's just open air resort. And to me, that's that defines anything that you could put under the stars or in nature or anything else. Look at this. So let me ask you this, Greg and Scott, you guys know this. Let me flip around my camera. You tell me, I'm in an Airbnb now. You tell me if this is glamping. This is a 300-year-old cabin that's been rebuilt over a few years. It's actually weird. I'm taking the phone sideways, and so off this here, I don't know if you can see this in the dark. I'm in a little town called Rostok in Croatia, and literally this thing used to be a water mill or something, and it's built on top of all these little, I'm walking over the river. It's super dark. I know that. Let me go over here and show you. This is the outdoor porch, and this is literally it's weird. I have to do things backward here. Can you see that water back there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's literally underneath the deck I just walked across, and it surrounds the entire house. So is this glamping because I'm so connected to nature? I don't know. You guys tell me.
Again, from my point of view, not being there, I would say, the key is there an outdoor component to what you're doing? Are you immersed in the outdoors still? I think we've had this conversation before. There's a hotel downtown Chicago that has a dome on a patio that they rent out for $3,000 a night, and they call it urban glamping. And I'm on record saying I ain't glamping. That's not. Staying outdoors at the top of a huge hotel in the middle of Chicago, it's not it, and it doesn't fit because it doesn't have that true interaction with the outdoors and that outdoors component to it, where you're doing something in the outdoors. I was looking at Mackenzie. I'm going to pick on you a little bit here too, because I actually looked at your website, and Mackenzie has at her farm has put together some pretty cool stuff, I think, and stuff that we've talked about extensively on our shows too. And when we talk about glamping and the idea of integrating those outdoor experiences, she has events there. I saw a bunch of your events. You have yoga, you have, other types of outdoor stuff going on. I didn't go through it in that much detail because I was trying to pay attention to what you were saying at the same time. But and you also have the nice the accommodations immersed in your farm in the outdoors, and it's kind of like that to me, and what Steph was talking about, and David as well. I mean, it's kind of like you're talking about the idea of having these accommodations, but it's the outdoor part of it, and also the human element. I talk about that quite a bit. The fact that there has to be some level of service associated with it. Without that, it's just a structure. It's just something to sleep in. So I'll quit rambling on, because as they all know about me, if I get sidetracked just a little bit, I'll talk forever. And
anyway,
that's how I change topics too. I realize it's a family thing, or maybe a Midwest thing. I don't know.
It's a Midwest thing.
But don't forget about the data, like just before we switch topics, about how people define glamping, because I thought that was interesting. Because they haven't figured it out over here. We sat on a panel and they asked me, like, where do you see glamping going in the next 20 years? And I said, like, well, Marriott has, acquired postcard cabins. They've announced their Bonvoy Outdoors that we've talked about on this show, and Outwired before too. Hilton's getting into the game, but they still don't use that word glamping. They're still focused more on cabin rentals. As we look through their website, I think, Scott, on one of our shows, they use outdoors, they use outdoor experience. But the way that glamping, they asked me, like, literally, how do you see glamping evolving in the next 20 years in North America? I said, I have no idea, because I think there's going to be all kinds of different people who like to go glamping, and it's going to depend on your niche and who your audience is and who you're targeting. And some of those resorts are going to look really luxurious. They're going to have private pools at the sites, just like you do in Croatia. Some of them are going to still be tents. Some of them are going to be single cabins on farms. And so I think it's really interesting to me that it's such a broad category, and that no matter what you dream and aspire to, if you're trying to connect somebody to the nature and outdoors, you can be a part of the glamping world.
Absolutely. Very well said, Brian. And I think a lot of this, and Mackenzie, you can probably speak to this, because I'm going to guess that you see this a lot at your place, because having an equine element to it, you've really upped the connection game, right? Because people, yes, it's a beautiful place, yes, but now there's these other living creatures that you're sharing space with. And yes, anybody, if you're glamping and you're outside, you might share connection with a living creature. It might not be one that certain people want to see. Maybe it's insects, or maybe a snake crawls across your deck, which for the record, no one should harm any snakes. They're wonderful animals, leave them alone. But at your place, the horses are, I'm assuming, very much a central, like a tenet to who you are, what you offer. And they probably do a lot of guest connection for you. Am I right?
You want that experience in nature and with the horses, and to be a horse, especially a horse that was once wild, to engage with humans in this way, because all of our horses, they get to choose if they want to be a sanctuary horse and we own, or they can choose to engage us. And we love being able to show that to people and have them have that firsthand experience of, oh my goodness, Rusty, he's one of the wildest ones, and he came within like 10 feet of you. And it happens sometimes that the horses get curious, have very friendly, domesticated wild horses that'll come right up pets every time. But we try to like build the experience around that, and we actually just completed our pony petting pavilion. So it's a round pen in the middle of the herd. There is a path from the glamping area up through the woods, and you come out in space, and there's the whole herd of horses right there. Come up to the wood fencing and get some pets and some attention. And we also have an immersive experience we offer where the guests can help us horses every night. So we ring a bell and the whole herd comes stand in, and they get to help put a feed bag on a wild mustang and then pet them after and learn about them and learn all their names. So they really get connection with the horses, and we love that.
That's wonderful. My goodness. yeah, if anybody out there is listening and is wondering what we talk about what we're meaning when we say curated experiences all the time, that right there, there's one right there. Not everybody can have a wild horse rescue, okay, but you can think outside the box, and you can find. I'm guessing that you didn't stumble into this because you like cats. Maybe you like cats, but I'm going to guess that you really have a thing for horses, and so you, please.
Yeah, and some of the people that come actually aren't horse people, and they're like, oh, well, the domes just look beautiful. You know, I just want to sleep in a bed. Kids. But that's why we offer that variety. So we've got 3 glamping domes that are fully furnished, and then we have one dome that is a huge transparent geodome in a forest with a sand floor, and that's our yoga studio. So we do like mindful meditation, yoga, sound healing, ceremonies. So all of these reconnect with nature, reconnect with yourself. So we bring in a lot of the wellness crew that may or may not even be horse people. But it's interesting because a lot of people who aren't horse people still love animals, but the whole horse world tends to be very intimidating to people. And there's like a gatekeeping around interacting with horses. And so it's a nice way to like get the wellness crew involved, and they're like, oh, well, you know, maybe I'll go for that hike with the guided hikes with the horses and demonstrations and things like that, and they get to learn that the way we share space with horses is very different than the traditional horse world, and consent and choice is always part of it. And so showing people that maybe we're like, oh, they're pretty, I'll enjoy them from afar, and getting them to be a little bit more comfortable. So we like to think we have something for everyone who wants to reconnect with the outdoors, with nature, or with animals.
That is awesome. And I think the thing that I really take away from what you're saying is that, and this is just for my consultant's brain, right? I come across folks all the time. They own a business. Maybe they've had it for years. Maybe they're just opened up, like Steph. You know, they've only been open for a year, and they're always looking for what should I do? What do I build? How do I bring more people here? How do I make more money? How do I, run my operation? Start with what you love and go from there. You're never going to find anything that moves you as much to work as hard as if you're building something that you yourself are generally in love with. Now, I'm not saying that, I have a love for mechanical pencils. I'm not going to build that around a glen. That's a small audience, right? But we all
have a love for mechanical pencils.
I don't know why. Really? Yeah, this guy, right? I love this thing. Let's probably like a 12-step program show. We should do a different time where I like wean myself off of them. Yeah, I got to think. But you find what you love. Find what's your passion, right? Build a resort, build a property that speaks to you as well. You're going to be there working long hours. You're going to put so much of yourself into it. Why not build it around what you're passionate about? And I think sounds like you've executed that really well. And into the space where you're actually rescuing these horses. It's not like you're just accumulating horses for fun. Your place serves a purpose to make the rest of their time on Earth better. That's wonderful. And I think more people could take from that, in that you took what you love and what means something to you, and you built that into your business. You've essentially made that your business. I think that's wonderful and very unique, right? I mean, I don't know. Anybody else want to add? I'm babbling at this point. Scott, you got anything you want to throw in? I'm still impressed.
She's basically one life. Like she's doing what she loves for a career, right? That's basically the equivalent of winning life. You can do that in many different ways. If you love to death being a Walmart greeter, then you've won life.
Mm-hmm.
That's the secret.
Absolutely. And the same with Steph. I only want one. We're only going to have one. Then that's the way it's going to go. It's really inspiring. And actually, we can go back to Dave, because he's rocking out those barrels in the very same way and finding ways to use that accommodation to connect with people. So when somebody comes and buys a barrel, Dave's done half the work for them. Look, we've got these really unique accommodations you can get, not just because it's a barrel. You want them printed. You want the bubble facing out with somebody's head right in it so they can watch that dark sky. Look at this, and he's on cue with visual
With the
aids.
visual.
Dave is the man. Look at this. Tell us about what we're looking at, Dave. That's really. Oh, look at that.
That's two of the murals that we've done, Surfer Girl and the little palm tree scene. We had a guest say, you do custom murals. Can you do two palm trees? And could you put a hammock in between them? And you know those little drinks they have with the umbrella? He said, can you put one of those down in the sand? And how about a hibiscus flower? Put it in a coconut. So that's the one we did for him.
My goodness. Yeah, that's a heck of a lot of custom on these things.
And then there's the little surfer girl, because we're on Vancouver Island. We're only about an hour and a half from Tofino, which is beautiful surf country.
Interesting. Not a part of the world where I think of people surfing.
No.
But that's me. That's my my lack of knowledge when it comes to geography, I suppose. So Brian's showing us some more water and a cat running around there. Brian, is the cat the is that like, is this sort of like parallel what
so
Mackenzie is doing with
it's
cats?
weird. Like I have to move this thing the opposite way to show you what I'm doing. So just bear with me. This is crazy. Like, okay, so the owner, I guess the owner of this place lives kind of back through that fence, and it's his cat. He introduced it to us when we came here, but it's just wandering around. Like, I can't be more immersed in nature if you tried. I'm going to try to do this with my flashlight so you guys can see this. This is the entrance of the place, right? I walk in, and this is literally like going the wrong way. Can I say F on the show? Anyway, there's a walkway right here, and I'm walking across this thing, right? So then there's the river is on both sides of me, or the water is on both sides of me here. And then I just keep walking straight ahead. And then this is this front porch, but then I'm going to do it the wrong way. Okay. Yep, I did it the wrong way. Over here is like I'm totally surrounded by water. And then I think, I'm trying to orientate myself. And you guys see all the way down there?
It's pretty dark.
I got to find the corner of the house here. I'm going the wrong way. There you go. There's the corner of the house. See, like right down here where I'm narrowing the light?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
That's a waterfall. Right at the corner of the waterfall at the house is a waterfall. It goes down, I think, like 10 feet. I haven't seen it. I got here after dark. And then the whole rest of this way, you can come on this thing. Like this whole deck here that you guys see is completely and utterly surrounded by the river and water. Like I can go all the way out here, and you can say hi to Krista. Wave, Krista. Okay. And then it's like, I don't want to be on the show. And then I can literally walk down these steps here. Like, so I won't fall in the river.
As I say, this would be a poor time to tumble.
Yeah.
I don't know. It might be an excellent time to tumble. I have to be honest.
And that's literally like, this is right off my deck, and I can just sit here and look at this. Like 360 degrees, this deck is surrounded by nature. For sure, this is glamping.
Yeah.
Like this is amazing. So, I don't know. I'm in love. I would move here. Like
when we ask people, we just did some work on like having, we've been trying to contribute to the definition of glamping forever. It seems like, and and you talk to different people and they all have a different definition, but like at the glamping show, Justin went around and did interviews with people and asked them how they define it. And really what kept coming up was people just really called it elevated camping. And I think because at the core of it is that base, is the outdoor base that we've been talking about here, that it's still, people still want to have that connection there. So regardless of what it is, it has to have that. And then we, in a lot of our work, we've tried to do some data-based defining, of what glamping is. We ask people what they want, what would they include, and we have all that research. By the way, if anyone ever wants it, we have tons of it. Brian shared some of it at his event, but it's it kind of gets to what people expect out of it. They expect some elevated services. They expect certain things out of it. And one of the things and we did this statistically, though, and I'll break because I keep bringing it up, but is the human element. And it's part of the whole hospitality equation. When you consider, I've worked in hospitality for a very long time, and it's that when you have to inject hospitality into what you're doing. Without that, it's not going to be glamping. Again, as I said earlier, in some campgrounds will put cabins and other kinds of structures on site, but there's no difference between their experience and the person who drives in an RV or puts a tent up in terms of what they get. The difference they get is a roofed accommodation. So if, in terms of making it glamping, it has to move beyond that. So again, these are the things we're looking at, by the way. And we're actually getting ready for some more research. I have some research on my computer right now that we've done in this category that will be coming out soon, that I think people will find real interesting in terms of looking at some of these other connections and what people are doing. But I'll say it again. I'm just glad with the group we have here today. This kind of represents kind of what we're doing in the category. And I have to say one more thing, and then I'll shut up. I promise. You can actually kick me out of the meeting if you want. Is there are some people in the industry who define glamping based on like some weird criteria, and that to be considered a glamping provider, you have to have at least like 8 structures on site. And they're basing a lot of their decisions on that, and they're reporting it to the industry. And I'm always amazed at it, because we keep reporting that the average size of any glamping operator is, I think, right around 10 is average. So you have a lot, because that includes the people with tons of them, and people like Steph and Mackenzie here. It's like so I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. I'm going on record. That's why I'm saying it here on the airwaves. I'm done.
Well, I mean, the people. I'm just showing the cat because you don't want to see my ugly face, right? That's so much better than my ugly face. Even though it's the cat's butt, it's still better than my ugly face. But like, I think that's interesting, because there are so many people in our industry, and to be fair, like, everybody does it, not meaning ill will. Like, I do it on my show. Scott, we do it on our show. We try to define glamping, and we try to say, this is what it is, this is what it isn't. I think, again, just if you have a dream and you're connecting people to nature and the outdoors, then do your thing and call it whatever you want. And it really is just an amazing thing to let people be outside.
Absolutely.
Well, David's coming in with some more.
We have more visual aids.
Visuals from David.
That's what it looks like when you're inside.
How come you aren't doing the show from inside one? That's what I want to know.
That's what we need.
It's a missed opportunity.
Wow, that is beautiful, David. Now, have you, in selling those things to the operators you sold them to, just curious, have you run into any folks that are maybe struggling a bit, despite having your beautiful barrels on their property, because they're not offering the things that we're talking about, because they're not curating experiences, or because they're not offering the human touch, the hospitality? Have you spoken with any operators that are trying to buy these things, put them out there, and rent them out without much interaction with the guests? Or are the people that you're selling to fairly well educated and understand that that's what people are looking for in the industry?
They're very clued in, and on Vancouver Island, pretty much every place has a good view. And they're getting between $250 and $450 a night renting these out. Most of them are being paid off in one season.
Oh, you cannot beat that. That's the ROI. That's a magic number right there. You got any overlooking the pebble beaches where the orcas come in and scratch themselves on the pebbles? That's I want to look out one of those bubbles and watch orcas come up to the beach and scratch. That's one of the. I really want to get to Vancouver Island and see that.
We were up there. We went and saw the place where the orcas scratched themselves, but there's no way. I mean, I guess there is a way. It's public land. You'd have to work with the government.
That's right.
there's a little platform up there, but like the orcas aren't there 99.2% of the time.
Yeah,
You
it's
just
very.
have to get really lucky.
I watch the orca cam on YouTube all the time and wait to just see. And every once in a while, you just see a giant orca come sliding by, scratching their belly.
This is how I imagine Scott. This is how I imagine
cool.
Greg's day. He's just literally watching the orca cam, clicking his mechanical pencil. Like, yes, I want to see.
Yes, the orca cam, the Panama.
Click.
Panama bird feeders. There's some hummingbird feeders in Ecuador that are fantastic to watch. And so before, because we're getting short on time. We're down to about 10 minutes. I do want to ask Steph and Mackenzie. We can start with Steph. What are you looking at going forward? What challenges have you come up against in this first year? And what are you planning for year 2 as you go ahead?
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah. I'd love to hear from you.
So I think we're just reflecting on the highs and things that we want to move forward on, continuing to market through social media and using some other platforms if and when we need it. Just keeping going with the consistency for us, even when we're fully booked, which we are getting, really good bookings going forward. But keeping on top of everything, really keeping the social media going, that consistency. In terms of the industry in Wales, there are, the flip side really is that the wider UK and Welsh tourism picture is a bit tougher. There are going to be changes in the industry, and with suggested, higher tourist tax fees or higher thresholds to meet occupancy rates. So those kind of things might hit us. So those are things that when they do, along with all other accommodation owners in Wales, that's something we will really have to address and restructure if needed. But I think really it's just being more creative with your offerings. As I said earlier, we've just put a sauna in. So what we're trying really hard to do, we're trying to be the comfort and the luxury is the ideal, and the sustainability is the method. So we're trying very hard to push the sustainability. We work with our local area for supply. So continue to keep doing that, but also continue to offer the luxury, the copper bath, the rainfall shower, the sauna, the outdoor experiences that people are really loving, and keep reading the feedback and keep moving forward. That would be what we're looking to do for the next 12 months or so, and hopefully keep going and keep being fully booked.
That's the key right there at the end, right?
Yeah,
I think it's wonderful that you're pairing sustainability and luxury, because I think for a lot of folks, they think sustainability and they think, oh, I'm going to go to this place and I'm going to take a shower under one of those shower heads that barely gives me enough water to, wash my eyebrow, let alone my hair. Well, not my hair. There's not much there. But, Scott's hair, he's got that full, all those locks, right? You need water to be able to wash that kind of stuff. But it sounds like you're able to pair those two things. So do you have, what are your sustainability initiatives? Do you do water recycling? Do you have solar? What are your sustainability initiatives?
We try really hard to do some of the things that are more unusual, as well as the ordinary things. So, we do with water recycling. We have solar panels on the farmhouse, which lead down into the cabin itself. We try to, as much as possible, use local produce. I make a lot of the toiletries and things myself.
Wow.
Everything that we built the cabin with was sustainable or reclaimed. My husband by trade is a carpenter, so he was able to take lots of things and make them into something different, sort of like that. But yeah, we just try very, very hard to be as sustainable as possible. The power initiative from the farmhouse helps an awful lot, and asking people to do their bit as well. Turn the lights off outside when they're in, to preserve the dark skies, to have special bulbs in the lights, to have lights that shine downwards. The hot tub itself is wood fired, where the wood comes from the farm, so we're not using electricity for that. We don't use chemicals at all in the hot tub. when the guests aren't in the cabin, the sheep mow the grass for us, which not only helps us, but it's just a little added novelty, really. And yet, so we're always open to ideas, of course, but that's our sort of mission, really. And we were really lucky, very beginning of us opening. The Guardian, which is quite a sort of a highbrow newspaper in the United Kingdom, featured us as they saw our sustainability pledges, and they really liked them and said that they aligned with their readers, and they published a piece on us, which was just fantastic. It was the best thing that we could have had happened. So we just keep plodding along and doing what we can, really.
That's great, Steph. Thank you for sharing all that. Mackenzie, how about you? What are your challenges upcoming in this next year, and where do you see yourselves going? Are you guys going to be adding units, adding experiences? Where do you see Wild Ride headed over the next year?
Yeah, so we would love to eventually add more units, but I think the goal, the more pressing goal, is to just kind of like beautify and improve on everything we have right now. So I come from the business world and have a very continuous improvement mindset of like, you have your minimum viable prototype and then you improve on it. And so I have a million different projects in progress right now that are functional, like that pathway I was talking that goes through the horse herds and up in the middle. But it's like, okay, I'd like to landscape it more. I'd like to beautify it. I want to make the footing a little bit nicer so that there's no muddy spots. And working on just simple things like adding more hangout spots. So we just added a new hangout spot that is between two of our herds, and it's like a triangle, and you've got horses on either side, and there are hammocks, and there's a fire pit, and some yard games. So like just coming up with spaces like that where there's more to explore. We've got about 5 miles of trails on site. We've got 150 acres.
Wow.
So but most of our trails aren't as well marked as they should be, and things like interactive trail maps and some technology features. So we made an app for our campers where there's an interactive scavenger hunt to get them out on the trails. So kind of just polishing all of those things that I've started doing to make them really nice and improve the experience for guests. So it's not just like, oh, it's my glamping dome and a horse experience. It's like being in one of those video games where you get to explore the whole property, and then you see, oh, there's this cool hangout area here, and we've got this beautiful creek running through the middle of the property, and there's a trail out there, and there's a spot where the water runs underneath the roots of the trees, so you can't see it, but you can hear it. And like doing things like putting some hammocks out there and having the scavenger hunt lead people out there just to get everyone out and exploring the different parts of the property.
Wow, I have been on a number of these MC shows with Brian, and I have rarely been like, I'm a customer for everyone that's on the show right now, but I am a customer for everyone that's on the show right now. Your places sound amazing. And I think it's really interesting that you touched on the guest experience part pretty much all the way through that, right? That's your focus, is can we upgrade that guest experience? The common areas that you mentioned are so important. And Scott and Brian, we talked about this on an Outwired episode once. And Scott, you touched on, there was a kind of a hilarious portion to this, because the people that go to these places, I forget which generation it was, I think it was Z or Y, they don't mind going there. They don't mind being there with friends. In fact, they would want to be, but they also want to be able to get the hell away from each other for a while. So that's Gen Z. So they want the little group area. Okay, we'll come down and we'll hang out, and we're all here together for the weekend, but we're only gonna hang out for a while. So we'll enjoy the hammocks and the fire. And I've kind of had enough of Brad. I'm gonna go back to my cab. Okay, I'm good, right? That's kind of what your data had pointed to.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. It's they like to have their own space. It's why they do a lot of Airbnbs, have your own space and then look for a common area. Brian, you and I talked about this one, the place you were at in Ireland was a really good example of that, where people could have their own spaces and still have that common area. But yeah, Mackenzie, that what you're talking about there is fits into that, because we found that generation is a little bit intimidated by places like campgrounds, where people tend to be very social. Like, you could be sitting out at your fire pit, and again, I grew up in Michigan, so I can say this. Like my Uncle Charlie, if he was camping there, he would literally walk up and say, "Hey, what are you guys doing? Where are you from?" It's like, and you could be from New York, and he'd say, "Well, do you know so and so?" Like, I knew some guy from New York, and that's just how it is. But the Gen Z folks don't really like that. It's just not in their comfort zone to have that kind of social interaction. So having those spaces where they control it is pretty important for people to be able to do. You can't have forced social interactions at any location.
Yeah.
All right,
Right
I think
on.
we've got to wrap up. Steph, what time is it in the UK? Is it 7 or 8?
7:05 in the evening.
5 till 7. Okay. It's well, maybe it's 8:03 is what my phone says. So that's weird.
7:05. Yeah,
Okay.
7:05.
All right. I thought I was like in the future by 8 minutes. I was going to go play the lottery. I think it's, we got to wrap up, Greg. Like, it's 8 o'clock here, and Steph's
Well,
probably
I know.
ready to
Then
have
you
a beer
started
too.
talking. I was headed to wrap up. I wanted to ask Dave a quick question so we could give him a chance to get out the door, and then So, Dave, now that Brian's to drop the hammer on us, we're 1 minute and 4 seconds over. Tell us really quickly where you guys are headed in the next year or so, and then we'll wrap.
Yeah, well, basically we build these barrels on Vancouver Island, and we ship all over the world. We ship one to Sardinia, Italy. We have a capability right now of doing 150 barrels a year, and we just put a second shop in to double that. So the barrels are only 20 grand Canadian, which is only 15,000 US. So we make them here and ship all over the world.
That's awesome, Dave. And if people want to find out more about your barrels, where do they find you?
CanadianSleepingBarrels.com.
Excellent. And Mackenzie, where do they find out about Wild Ride?
WildRideCT.org.
Excellent. And Steph, where can they book a stay at the one and only Quab's Cabin?
Quab's Cabin Powys, which is POWYS.co.uk or .com.
Excellent. Well, thank you all to our guests. Thank you, Brian, for letting me guest host. I love curating the conversation. I have a good time with it, in case you guys couldn't tell. Scott, it's good to see you as always. Where do they find out about Karen Consulting?
Just KarenConsultingGroup.com.
Well, that was easy.
It's a lot of typing. I know.
Where do they find out about Vireo?
Growwithvireo.com. And if you don't like the website, send Brian an email. He made it. I think it's really nice, but if you have complaints, don't send them to me. It's on Brian and his team.
I'm gonna let you wrap up in a second, but I just want to say, I think it's really important for us to hammer home that, for as much as our world that we live in, whether you're in America or the UK or Croatia or Canada or wherever else, right? We often see on the news and we hear a lot of stories about how we're different and we're divided, whether it's by country or gender or sex or preference or whatever it may be. And I think what I've learned more than anything here, and I knew it already, but just it reinforces it every time I travel, is that we're all human. We all go through the same struggles and trials and tribulations. We all, as we talked about earlier on the show, we all have in our industry the same permitting issues and questions and answers. And Europe may be a little bit further ahead of us in the glamping sector because they've been doing it for a little bit longer. But just the ability to connect with your peers who are all the same as you, no matter where they are, what country they're in, what language they speak, whether they're high end or middle end or low end, whether they're one cabin on a farm or a couple of accommodations in the middle of horses or Canadian sleeping barrels or private pools on mobile homes, as they see in Croatia. Everything's the same. We're all connected. We're all the same, and we all have a lot that we can learn from each other. So the more inclusive I think we can be, the better this world's going to be.
It's a great way to leave it, Brian. Well, thanks everybody for showing up, and everybody out there who's watching. Really appreciate it. Had a great discussion this week. Look forward to the next MC Fireside.
Next week I'll be from set in France. So Scott, I think you're hosting, right?
Yes, I am.
All right, next week we'll
Get
be
ready
live
for
from
some
set
rambling.
in France. So. Okay. See you guys later.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.